A macro is defined by your textbook as a time-saving tool that automates the formatting of Word documents. The word macro generally means a large-scale or overall look at something. In computing, it means that several commands are put together into one command. In other words, it's a shortcut. Macros have to be recorded to be created. It may sound a little silly, but one of my favorite parts of creating the macro is that when you start recording, your mouse pointer turns into a tiny picture of a cassette tape. If you don't know what a cassette tape looks like, since it's old technology, just Google it. Or just be patient enough to wait until a little further along in this introduction. I want to start us out by creating a simple macro, which can then be used to quickly insert text. First, you will need a new blank page in Word. With your insertion point at the usual starting position in the upper left corner, we will first turn on the macro function. This may be found on the View tab. At the right edge of the ribbon, you will find the Macros command. Click on the Macros drop-down arrow and choose Record Macro. The Record Macro dialog box will open. Word will require you to name the macro before continuing. There is a default name in the macro field, but it isn't very descriptive. It's a good idea to choose a simple but easily understandable name. We're going to create a macro with our name and title, so let's give this the name Title. There's also a field where we could add a description, but for now let's keep it simple. Click on OK. At this point, your mouse pointer should now have a cassette tape icon. From now until you stop recording, all of your commands in Word are being recorded. This includes your typing. Now let's type our names, press Enter, and then give ourselves titles. You can make the title be anything you choose because this is for practice. I'm going to make myself Instructor Extraordinaire. To stop recording, simply return to your macro command, click on the drop-down arrow, and choose Stop Recording. If you followed these steps carefully, your macro should now be ready to run, so let's test it out. Press Enter a couple of times so you're on a new line, click on the macro button, and single-click on the macro we created, called Title, in the list. Click on the Run button. Try running your macro a few more times. You can use it over and over again, which is what makes it such a great feature. Your macro should have run and your name and title should have appeared on your page. If it didn't, just delete the macro we created, listen to the steps I went over, and try creating it again. That was a pretty basic macro. For this one, all we did was type. Let's try a second macro, and this time we'll add formatting. The first step is very important. We need to do this before recording the macro. Place your insertion point right at the beginning of your name. It doesn't matter which of the places on the page where your name is typed, just put your insertion point before your name in one of those places. Now let's start recording your macro. Let's name this macro Formatting. After we click on OK, the recording of our macro will start. Please don't get ahead of me at this point, or you may have to delete this and start over. Click on OK. Your mouse pointer should now have changed, and we're going to make some very specific formatting changes to your entire name and title. To help with that, I'm going to use a key which your textbook will instruct you to use from time to time. We're going to press F8. F8 is found at the very top of your keyboard. These keys are called function keys, which is where the F comes from. You won't see anything happening yet, so you'll just have to take a little leap of faith with me. F8 turns on something called Extend Mode. Press F8 if you haven't done so already. Again, you won't see anything happening, so just trust yourself. You'll find out soon enough if it's turned on. Now we're going to press the Control key, hold it, and press the down arrow key 2 times so that both your entire name and your title are selected. Now we're going to start formatting. The best way to do this is going to be through the font dialog box. The reason I say this is because macros have a couple of quirks. One of those is that we can't change colors in a macro unless we use the dialog box. You get a chance to be creative now. I'm going to ask you to make several changes. Make sure you change the font. Then change the font style or size or both, and finally choose a different color. Close the font dialog box. Press the Home key. Stop the recording of your macro. Now you can test your macro. Click in front of one of the places your name is and run the formatting macro. Try it again if you want to. Again, one of the great things about macros is that you can run the same one over and over again. And that's how you create a macro. Before I end, I have one piece of information which I need to share with you. When you create a macro, the name cannot have any spaces in it. If you try to create a name with spaces, you'll get an error message, but you may have trouble understanding what that error means. Just follow good naming practices by avoiding spaces, and you'll be fine.